Remember me. Don't let it make you cry.
What color is the sky? Ay, mi amor, ay, mi amor. You tell me that it's red. Ay, mi amor, ay, mi amor. Where should I put my shoes? Ay, mi amor, ay, mi amor. You say put them on your head. Ay, mi amor, ay, mi amor.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Couch Commentary, the show where I sit on a nice, comfortable couch and talk about the occasional movie. Today, I want to talk about Coco. Now, Coco is not a good movie. I know that everyone loves this movie for some reason, and I also know that this Disney film also won both Academy Awards it was up for at the Disney-owned Oscar ceremony, which obviously means that it's a good movie. But it's not. Just because it made money or won awards doesn't necessarily mean that it's inherently good. If you know me or follow my channel at all, you know by now that I have a certain disdain for Disney as a company.
Disney, as you know, is notorious when it comes to protecting their world of characters. Okay, for example, if I tried to use Snow White in a sketch for even 10 seconds, Disney would launch a lawsuit into my ass, okay?
I feel like every single one of their recent movies is incredibly similar. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. So when I heard that Coco was going to hit theaters, I had next door to no interest in seeing it.
And I had next door to zero interest.
Gone are the days of inventive, creative, and interesting Disney films with compelling and well-defined characters at their heart. And in are the days of flat, boring, repetitive movies that achieve nothing. Movies that usually feature two characters that initially don't like each other, who have to go on some kind of elaborate journey, and in the end end up liking each other and finding out that they're a good together or a good team. And this is a very standard Disney formula. They use this type of formula in almost every single movie they make at this point, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's plenty of movies that follow a similar formula that are really good, but here especially, the movie never adds anything to this formula to actually make it interesting to watch. So let's just get into it, shall we?
Sometimes I think I'm cursed because of something that happened before I was even born. See, a long time ago, there was this family. The papa, he was a musician. He and his family would sing and dance and count their blessings. But he also had a dream to play for the world. And one day, he left with his guitar and never returned.
Right off the bat, I'm off-put by this movie. I hate how this movie opens. Now, why is that? Because of the narration. And I know that this sounds like a nitpick or a minor detail that doesn't really affect much, but to me, it screams lazy writing because this narration is the only time it's ever in the movie. It's not an actual plot point or a way of telling the story. It's just a way for the first 5 minutes of this movie to spew exposition at you. There's nothing interesting about the way that it does this. Sometimes narration can be a great asset to a movie. For example, The Wolf of Wall Street has narration throughout the entire movie, and it adds a nice layer to the movie that wouldn't be there without it.
How's my favorite aunt, huh?
Welcome. Was the traffic terrible? Oh, no, not at all. Thank God Aunt Emma didn't need too much convincing.
But here, the narration's only in the first 5 minutes, because the writers just had no idea how to get exposition out naturally throughout the rest of the movie. So they just shove it in the first 5 minutes with bad narration. It never comes back, it doesn't affect anything, and everything that it tells you, you sort of learn anyway. So why do this? But through this bad exposition dump, we learn that Miguel is our main character, and his family hates music, and he wants to be a musician, obviously.
No music.
No music!
And the reason they hate music is because his great-great-grandfather ditched his great-great-grandmother and ran off to pursue a life of music. And because of this, they hate music and they don't ever want anybody to play music or hear music. They don't want to hear music at any point in their life. So we see a picture of the great-great-grandfather and mother, great-great-grandmother, and the father's picture is torn. His face is torn out, which definitely won't come back later in the movie. Definitely not. Speaking of things that come back later, remember when I was talking about the Disney formula just a minute ago? Well, here they use the same formula again, like they do in almost every movie, but here it feels so tired and so dated because every little aspect of this movie is amazingly predictable. Every aspect of this movie is paper thin and completely see-through because the movie never tries to add anything to this less than interesting formula to make it at least mildly interesting. And when it does this, it makes every single twist become predictable and cliche because the formula calls for certain things to happen throughout the movie. And when they happen, you see them coming because it's the formula. And the movie doesn't add anything to this formula to make them not predictable. So just keep that in mind as we go throughout the rest of the movie. I don't want to quite get into spoilery territory yet. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this movie here.
Dante! No, Dante, stop! No.
So we see that the man in this photo has the same guitar as Miguel's hero does, Ernesto de la Cruz.
He starred in movies. He had the coolest guitar. He could fly.
Which obviously means that Ernesto de la Cruz is Miguel's great-great-grandfather. And this is a big deal because de la Cruz is a celebrity. He's like the Frank Sinatra of Mexican culture. He's a big deal. So Miguel gets really excited and says, there's a musician in the family and he's the best ever and he's my great-great-grandfather. This is amazing. But like I was talking about with the formula, it's pretty convenient that the face is torn out of this photo. Just saying. It's definitely De La Cruz. Just trust me, it's definitely not somebody else, even though the face is conveniently torn out of the frame here so that we don't know for sure that it's him. This won't come back later. Just take it for its word. Trust the movie. The movie won't ever try and have a twist at the end. No, definitely not. Anyway, our heroic main character breaks and enters into this celebrity's tomb and steals his guitar. But it's his great-great-grandfather's, so it's fine. He can break the law if it's his great-great-grandfather's. Nobody will care.
Thanks.
Do you mind?
Okay, so we're about 30 minutes into this movie. Miguel just entered the land of the dead, and I'm already pretty confident that the movie is trying to pull a fast one on me with the ripped photo, the reveal that his father is a celebrity, his great-great-grandfather is a celebrity. So now I'm just looking for who the great-great-grandfather is actually going to be, which is the only thing that's interesting about this movie. The only thing that keeps me watching the movie, at least on a first watch, is trying to find out how the movie's gonna pull a fast one on me. Because the story here is amazingly boring. Which means, at this point, all that I care to see is the animation and the characters of this movie. Now that I'm confident I know the story and how boring it's going to be because it follows a very rigid, stupid formula, that's all I'm looking for. And only one of these two things is good. So I'll let you guess which one of these two things is actually going to be good about this movie. The animation or the characters. I'll give you a second to guess it. Okay, time's up. And of course, if you guessed the voice acting, you'd be right. The voice acting is the best part of this movie. No, I'm just kidding. The animation is obviously the best part of this movie, and the animation here is spectacular. There's nothing that I can say about this movie to make it look bad. The animation is absolutely spectacular. Every frame of this movie is beautifully animated, and it's clear that the animators here put in hundreds, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hours into animating this movie, and it shows. The movie looks excellent. Every single shot in this movie is just beautiful. It's dripping with vibrant colors and wonderful textured environments and really nice details. So the animation is great. There's nothing that I'll say bad about that because I just can't. By stealing this celebrity's guitar, he is magically cursed and stuck in the land of the dead.
Well, you're cursed.
What?
He runs into his family members, who the movie constantly reminds us is his family members, with these obnoxious cutaways. Like, couldn't figure that out on our own. Thanks for constantly reminding us who they are, movie. We see this bum try to get across the flower bridge into the land of the living. He gets apprehended, and then we learn that to break the curse on our main character, he has to receive a blessing from his family.
How do we send them back? Well, since it's a family matter, the way to undo a family curse is to get your family's blessing.
That's it?
The family doesn't want him to play music, so they say that we'll let you go if you promise not to play music. And of course, he gets pissed and runs to find his father, the celebrity De La Cruz man. And accompanying him on this not-so-perilous journey is this bum from earlier. They make a little deal where Miguel will put up his picture on his ofrenda if he can help him get to De La Cruz. So they make a little deal, and I make my prediction of who the real great-great-grandfather will be. And it's this bum. This bum who is conveniently at the same place at the same time as our main character, who conveniently can't get across the flower bridge to the land of the living because he doesn't have his picture up somewhere, and who conveniently also has a disdain for this kid's father, or great-great-grandfather.
No manches. You played with Ernesto de la Cruz, the greatest musician of all time?
Oh, you're funny. Greatest eyebrows of all time, maybe, but his music? Not so much.
You don't know what you're talking about.
It's this guy. This guy's gonna be his real great-great-grandfather. It's obvious. He even talks about how he was a singer and a guitar player. I mean, come on. It can't get much more obvious than this. You didn't even try, Disney. You didn't even try to hide this twist. Did you try? Like, at all? Can anyone answer that? Did Disney try? I mean, it's less than 40 minutes in. The movie's almost 2 hours long, and I already know exactly where it's going. So, the only way that this movie can win me over now is by having some kind of interesting developments. And the interesting developments, I guessed, in 30 minutes. So, what do people like about this movie? At this point, I don't care about the story at all. I'm pretty sure I know where it's going. I'm pretty sure that it has nothing to offer. So, right now, all I want to see is good characters. And in the first little bit of this movie, they're really stupid and childish and flat and boring, and none of them have any discernible character traits about them. They all act very childishly towards each other, and Miguel acts that way back to them.
I give you my blessing to go home, to put my photo back on the ofrenda, and to never play music again.
What? She can't do that.
Well, technically, she can add any condition she wants.
Fine.
Then you hand the pedal to Miguel.
Them. I mean, the characters are so flat in this movie, and they don't really learn or grow at all. They just are that way for the whole movie, and it's boring. But now that Hector and Miguel are going off on their journey together, the movie completely devolves into random, loosely connected scenes that don't feel important at all. The whole movie is just two guys walking between set pieces until it ends. And this is the rest of the movie. This scene right here pretty much defines the rest of the movie. We see them going into this impoverished town where they need to find a guitar, and this old guy has one. And then stupid stuff happens that you don't care about to a character that you met for 1 second, and then they just immediately move to the next scene. And this is how the movie is for 2 hours. It's just scene after scene after scene of loosely connected bits that are mostly unimportant, stupid, and contrived. The longer this movie goes on, the more I feel like this script was slapped together in a night. The story is so simplistic and doesn't offer any interesting or surprising developments or complicated or interesting characters. It's just two guys that wander around this land of the dead, which also feels very creatively limited. And let me explain. The Land of the Dead, the first thing you see about the Land of the Dead is this awe-inspiring shot with this rousing music to make you feel like this is a magical place where anything's possible. And it's kind of exciting. You're like, oh man, this is really nice to look at. This is neat. Where is this going? And then you start to see the details. And the details cripple this world. Again, the first look at it is very magical and awe-inspiring, but then there's security on the flower bridge. Even though you could just run across if you have your picture up, and if you don't, then you fall through, or you kind of fall through. So why have security in there the first place? Nobody can get across anyway, so what's the point of that? And then there's like celebrities and people in poverty and like houses and pools and stuff. It just feels like reality, except with skeletons. There's nothing creative or inventive or original or new about the Land of the Dead. There's nothing interesting here. And it's very strange to watch as these two characters walk around the real world, except there's skeletons there. I mean, come on, the movie literally could not think of anything creative to put in this world. There's bodyguards, there's celebrities, there's weird like mansions with parties and stuff. Like, it's just the real world, but people are dead. It's so uncreative, and it feels like this is the way that the movie has to structure itself to put artificial barriers in front of our main character so that the movie doesn't end in 20 minutes. Because if these artificial barriers like security guards or the bodyguards of celebrities or like house parties that are hard to get into didn't exist in this world, the movie would be over in 15 minutes because Miguel would just say, give me a blessing, and they would say, okay. And if they said no, then he'd go to someone else and they'd say, okay. Or he'd find this celebrity guy and he'd just say, okay, because it'd be easy. It'd be so easy. So they have to put these artificial barriers in our character's way to extend the runtime. But in doing that, it feels so limited and so uncreative. Everything just feels like a plot device in this movie. Every single scene feels like they're just setting up a plot device to be used later. Like the spirit guides, like, oh, those are kind of neat looking. Oh, it's just a plot device later. Okay, this picture with a torn face is kind of neat and has some backstory to it, but it's just a plot device later. Oh, this song that they play throughout the entire movie is sort of catchy, but it's just a plot device later. Oh, there's cameras in this world for some reason, but they're just plot devices later. Like, every single aspect of this movie just feels like it's there to either stop our characters from progressing or force them to progress.
Y aunque la vida me cueste llorona, no dejaré de quererte.
I thought you hated music.
Oh, I loved it. I remember that feeling when my husband would play and I would sing and nothing else mattered. But when we had Coco, suddenly there was something in my life that mattered more than music. I wanted to put down roots. He wanted to play for the world.
So our main characters wander around a couple more scenes, and then they get to Ernesto de la Cruz's mansion, where, wouldn't you know it,
Success doesn't come for free, Miguel. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes to seize your moment. I know you understand.
No! No!
he isn't Miguel's great-great-grandfather, and he's actually a secret bad guy. Who could have seen this coming? But now we're over an hour into this movie, and we actually have a villain, and we finally have a reason to root for our main characters. Where was this at the beginning of the movie? There's no stakes to anything at the beginning of the movie. They come in more than an hour in. There's no reason to be invested in this movie until it's almost over. Why did you write a movie where there's nothing happening for almost 90 minutes? Who decided that that was a good idea? Because I want to punch them in the face.
No dejaré de quererte. Subí al pino más alto, llorona, a ver si de ti visaba. Como el pino era tierno, llorona, al verme llorar, lloraba. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Ay de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona.
So they run around on a big stage. There's a Monsters, Inc. plot point that helps our heroes beat the bad guy.
But how did what? Let's watch my favorite part again, shall we?
I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die.
You think I'd let him go back to the land of the living with your photo? To keep your memory alive? No.
You're a coward!
I am Ernesto de la Cruz, the greatest musician of all time.
Hector's the real musician.
And they win the day. And everyone lives happily ever after. Hector is fine. His picture gets put up. Everything is just fine. Who cares? If you ask anybody that loves this movie why they love this movie, you'll usually get one of three answers, or a combination of all three. Number one, the animation is amazing, which is fair. The animation is amazing. The second reason that a lot of people love this movie is for the soundtrack, which I don't understand. The music here is not that good. There are a variety of lyric-heavy songs where the characters sing and dance, and there are a plethora of background songs that are emotionally manipulative. And every single song that the characters sing in the movie is completely unmemorable. I just watched the movie, and I don't remember any of the songs. I can barely sing the big song, Remember Me. All I remember is Remember Me. Though I have to go away, remember me. Something, something, something. That's all I remember. I can barely sing 2 lines of the song, much less the rest of the songs. I can't even remember the rest of the songs. And there's one at the end of the movie. I don't remember any of them. They're all unmemorable and unspecial. Not only are every single song in this movie unmemorable, but they're all emotionally manipulative too, which is a much more egregious problem with the songs. When, for example, this scene right here, when this random guy that we don't care about dies and flies away, who we've known for 1 second, the movie plays this really sad guitar, like we're supposed to care about this? But we knew him for 1 second. So what are you trying to communicate here? Do you want us to feel sad for somebody we don't care about? Or are you just trying to manipulate me emotionally with this stupid song? Why can't we just have our own experience with the movie? Why can't you just let us interpret the scene on our own? Disney goes out of their way to make sure that you feel the way that they want you to feel. And so they force it on you. They say, this is a sad part, so here's a sad song. Well, this is a happy part, so there's upbeat music. It forces you to try and feel the way it wants you to feel, even though I didn't feel that way throughout the entire movie. My expression throughout the entire movie is just this. No matter what song was on, no matter what was happening, I was just like this. because it never earns anything. The movie doesn't earn anything it tries to accomplish. Everything that it does, it just does so to try and manipulate you. It doesn't actually earn anything. And I know some people will cry at almost everything, and a lot of people say they cry in this movie, but I can't help but wonder why. It doesn't ever earn your sympathy. It doesn't ever earn your emotions. It just is a movie that is stupid and then pretends like it's not. The third thing that people love about this movie is the message about family, and that family's important, alive or dead. And that's fine. That message is fine. It's a message that Disney has pumped into their movies constantly, but it's not bad. I don't care. It's forced in and it's obvious, but it's a kid's movie, so there has to be some kind of blatant message for kids to understand. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. So why did I bring up these three big reasons? Well, again, these are the reasons that people love this movie. And I'm not trying to put you down if you love this movie. Again, everyone has a different experience with it. I'm not trying to take anything away from Mexican culture either. The only reason I bring these points up is because they are the only reasons that people like this movie, which is not enough to make this a good movie. The animation, the message, and the music are only 3 aspects of Coco. And that is simply not enough to make this a good movie. There's so much more that makes a movie that people just seem to forget here. The characters are not interesting. The story is simplistic and poorly structured. There are way too many cliches, plot devices, and contrived, trite things here. It's a cliched, boring, poorly written, emotionally manipulative movie that doesn't even try to do anything new or different. It's a movie that is so creatively limited, and it feels like they just slapped this together in a night and then had amazing animators just try to fix all the problems. So, needless to say, this just doesn't work for me. I don't like this movie. Anyway, that'll do it for me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time